I want to start this conversation off, though, looking big picture. Athletes do wrong things. Athletes try to cheat the system. And now we're hearing that there's potentially 65 years of potential jail time. What's the likelihood of this all happening? I know you hear big numbers when it comes to jail time potential, and then there's the actual number that comes out.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Stacey Gotsulias. He's Brian McKeon. Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every day. Brian, how are we doing on this Wednesday?
We're doing great. Looking forward to a really exciting conversation that we had just now.
Yes. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today.
On today's show, we talked to Dan Lutz, a sports lawyer who has been featured on ESPN and Fox News. He's also a professor at New York Law School and Pace University. You can also catch him on the Conduct and Detrimental podcast, which covers sports law. Dan, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. I'm fantastic. Appreciate the call here. I've been kind of going around speaking on this on a couple of platforms to some. I did a law school lecture this week on this topic. So by all means, certainly ready to empty the tank here and answer any questions you guys might have.
It is fascinating because me and Stacey come from different sides of this potentially, right? Because I like to gamble. Full disclosure, I love gambling on sports. It interests me a lot. Stacey's the opposite, not into it at all. And I've sat here a lot thinking that it doesn't have much to do with sports gambling being legalized. Because I think this would happen regardless, whether it's legal, whether it's illegal. People are going to do dumb things, whether they're allowed to or not allowed to. I want to start this conversation off, though, looking big picture. Athletes do wrong things. Athletes try to cheat the system. And now we're hearing that there's potentially 65 years of potential jail time. What's the likelihood of this all happening? I know you hear big numbers when it comes to jail time potential, and then there's the actual number that comes out.
Listen, with all due respect to the accused here, do you want to set an over/under at jail time? Is that what you want to do, Brian?
Let's do it. Yeah, please. I'd love that.
I'm just messing with you. So, no, I'll try to give you some sense of it. It's very rare that someone would get the maximum amount of time charged under the offense, right? There's always some type of plea bargain that makes sense because it takes, legal resources to convict someone, and you always run the risk of like losing a big case like that. So if prosecutors can get have someone take a plea deal and they get some amount of jail time, they're willing to listen to that. It's very rare unless there's like some situation where, it would shock the public conscience to even come up with a deal for someone, be it terrorist allegations or something like that, where it wouldn't make sense to settle. This is the type of deal that is certainly ripe for a plea bargain. Like, and you already have the lawyer out here on the other side, like saying, the transactions that the prosecutors were looking at between Clase and some of these other individuals involved were for lawful events. So like, it's certainly rare that they're going to get the full amount. I'm not quite sure why. No one has explained it to me in a way that I'm satisfied with, why these baseball players are getting such different charges than the basketball players the week prior when the events seem to be somewhat similar. But yeah, listen, you're always going to take reduced offenses to those charges. I believe it's like, 65 is the maximum all in. There's bribery charges, there's money laundering charges, there's wire fraud charges. I'm not sure all of those will stick, and we'll see. But the goal for the prosecutor is to charge as much as you can reasonably charge under the statute. And then once you've set the goalposts all the way over here, you find a way to settle in the middle. It's this fun thing they teach in law school called anchoring. You want to set your position here, and then therefore, if you settle kind of in the middle, it looks good. But like you've artificially set the ceiling over here, that's just an artificial cap. So I would tell you very rare that they're going to go all the way to the top. But without telling you an exact number, somewhere in the middle, but not the full extent.
Interesting. Wow.
Does Commissioner Rob Manfred have any legal authority in this situation? Can he just ban them from baseball even, do they have to be convicted in court, or can he just do that?
It goes for anything that's in Major League Baseball. You don't need a criminal offense to suspend someone. And Brian said the name of my lovely podcast, Conduct Detrimental, right? These acts, right, could be conduct detrimental to the league. Even if they presumed to be lawful events, and lawful transactions, whether anybody down the stream is convicted, and that's not just Clase or Ortiz. If you're talking to people that are maybe having conversations, telling people to throw games, and those texts that are coming in are real texts trying to influence the outcome of the game, and you're not reporting that to the league, I mean, that's equally reprehensible conduct, that you're just getting these and you're just not reporting them. And we can talk the analogous situation that's happening with UFC and Dana White right now. But certainly there's an obligation on the commissioner's office to clean up their particular sport, be it Adam Silver in baseball or Manfred in baseball. I think I said Silver's in basketball. Mm-hmm. But I will say this, and Brian, Stacey, I think it's an important point. And Brian, I certainly fall on your end of the spectrum. I am a gambler. I bet on a lot of things. But I'm also a baseball purist. You're not in my office right now. You don't see all my San Francisco Giants bobbleheads behind me over here. But I love the sport of baseball, and I think there's something odd that you can bet on the outcome of every pitch. Like, I went to a Mets game early this year, and I hadn't realized basically the betting had gone to this point. You can literally bet on every pitch, right? If it's going to be over a certain amount of miles an hour, if it's going to be, or how many pitches a batter will see in a particular count, whether the next pitch will be hit in play, will be taken for a strike, taken for a ball. So those are called micro bets. And, I'll educate some of the listeners that might not be familiar. We can talk about, the new age of betting, right? Like, what's causing all these scandals to pop all of a sudden. And it's not, Stacey, and maybe we'll disagree on this. I don't really think it's the legalization of gambling in the last 10 years. I think what's happened is that sports technology has gotten so smart with AI that we can just catch these things at a much higher frequency than we ever could before. And these, like, Brian, I am going to put you on the spot here. What's your typical bet size? Like $50, $100?
Yeah, 50 to 100.
Okay. So let's say all of a sudden, and right now, DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever you bet, they have a profile on you. Okay. And they know that Brian bets $50 to $100. Sometimes if he's feeling really lucky, he bets $1.50 or $2.50. Let's say all of a sudden, over the course of the year, you start betting $10,000 only on Emmanuel Clase first pitches. That is spiking as a regular activity. And let's say you do it once. Let's say you do it twice, 3 times, 4 times. And then, Stacey, your normal bet is $10 to $20. And you're doing the same thing. You're going 10, 20x your account for the same thing, Clase. So they find 2 data points that are irregular. That's all they need, right? And obviously they want to see that over a larger sample size. But the question Stacey asked is a good one. What responsibility does Rob Manfred have to solve this issue? My understanding is that these betting scandals, and I don't think we know this yet with respect to baseball, but we do know this with respect to UFC. They were told the head of the card 2 weeks ago. They called Dana White and they said there's suspicious betting activity on this particular fight, one of them. And they said, what do you want to do about it? And Dana White went to the fighter and said, hey, what's going on? And the fighter denied it. The fighter went out and lost under very suspicious circumstances in the first round as a very heavy money line favorite. So the question is, right, what does baseball know? What did they know ahead of time? And how can they solve this? They can solve this by telling everybody what I just told you, that any suspicious betting activity is going to be flagged, and baseball's probably going to know about it ahead of time. So maybe you're going to get in trouble and you're going to get the hammer without actually having ever made a profit on the back end. So, I think that certainly the technology is within Manfred's wheelhouse to figure it out. And these third-party betting vendors, their job is to figure this out ahead of time because we have to place the bets ahead of time. So, I think it's well within Manfred's jurisdiction to cover this, and the technology seems to make it available that he can do it.
Yeah. I think you sort of answered this, but do you think it's more rampant throughout sports than we or even the leagues would like to admit?
I think so. And now I'll caveat it with this. The technology is now kind of being put on a national level. Like this activity with Clase, and we could talk about how Clase is a multi-million-dollar a year pitcher, and we could talk about the motivations. But this technology that discovered the NBA betting scandal, the UFC betting scandal, it's not old school tech. It's brand new tech. And that tech, the actual activity that Clase and Ortiz are accused of is stuff that dates back to 2023. So what I think we are going to have is this era for the next 6 months, year, whatever it is, that looks back at activity that occurred in this gambling era of 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I find it very hard to believe that players now don't understand the tech. And we're talking about betting scandals that are occurring as we speak on November of 25. But I think this is certainly the tip of the iceberg of activity that has occurred to this point. I would think so. I'd feel pretty strongly about that.
I'd call myself a purist when it comes to being a sports fan too. And this kind of stuff does concern me as a fan of sports. I love the gambling side of sports for sure. And I love talking that and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the actual legitimacy of what's going on the field, that does concern me because I want to believe that everything going on is actually what's going on. And there's not extra motivations that are going on behind it. Now, this conversation comes up a lot when we see players sign new contracts. Oh, can you believe that this guy signed for $100 million? Look at what Reggie Jackson's getting paid. Look what this guy was getting paid. And I always say to people this, the reason why athletes get paid these astronomical amounts of money is because of the fact that sports has gotten so popular in the last 20, 30, 40 years. The TV deals are all hundreds of millions of dollars. Jersey sales, ticket prices. You can't get into a game for under $10 anymore. None of that exists. And it all leads me to this point. Major League Baseball, at the end of 2025, their TV deal with ESPN ended. The end of 2028, their TBS and their Fox deals end with the playoffs and the World Series. 2027, the CBA comes up. And on the heels of all that, you have this giant scandal about players cheating and the integrity of the sports in question and all these things going on. I got to know from you, Dan. Big picture, this affect Manfred's CBA being signed because he's looking to get more money, right? He's looking to get more money throughout the league and everything like that. And this can affect things big time. And if he doesn't get the same type of TV deals that he's looking for, that could be the end of Rob Manfred's tenure. Because at the end of the day, the money's all that matters.
Have you ever considered becoming a lawyer? I feel like you have this flair for the dramatic here.
I have not. One of my best friends is a lawyer, and she says that it's a very difficult job, so I don't want to do that now.
Your friend is a liar. Don't. No, it is what it is. No, so I think this will be a really tough selling point, and just like we can look at other data points, and if I hadn't mentioned, I work in the baseball sphere, I work in football, basketball, hockey. Like I have clients in a lot of different realms, so I have to have an understanding of the entire sports landscape as to how to predict where certain things will go. So we had on November 1st, the college sports landscape was supposed to allow their athletes to bet on college athletes were allowed to bet on pros as of November 1st. And they just weren't sure what this landscape was going to look like. So they delayed and postponed that announcement. I think it's November 15th or maybe it's the 21st, but they've kicked it out a couple weeks. So Brian, your question is a good one. Like, how will these, scandals impact, be it the CBA negotiations, be it Manfred's tenure? I don't think we know that yet, right? And we have yet to see, other than really the Trevor Bauer stuff that had happened a couple years ago, like, we never saw Manfred lay down the hammer in a real legitimate way. We could talk, and again, people that are listening to this, I'm sure you're aware of, like, Adam Silver laying down the hammer on Donald Sterling years ago and saying he was banned for life, right? We're watching now what's going to happen with a pitcher like Emmanuel Clase, who's a two-time reliever of the year, three-time All-Star. Will the hammer be laid down? Will Adam Silver lay down the hammer with respect to Terry Rozier, who's another player that's made in the comparable, right, tens of millions of dollars? We haven't had like not that I'm a New Yorker, so I'm not wishing this, but like Aaron Judge is like a guy, right? Pete Rose was a guy. Those were different caliber of stories, and maybe people on a national level don't care about two Cleveland Guardians relievers. Like maybe that doesn't move the needle, and maybe for basketball, right? Chauncey Billups is a Hall of Famer. Maybe that moves the needle, but he's a coach. He's not an active player. So you could tell me, Brian, Stacey, like that we have yet to find the saga that's really going to force Manfred's hand and really send a message. When it's the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers with Donald Sterling in the NBA, like, you can send a message. You certainly can. But two relievers on the Guardians, like, let's say you ban them for life from Major League Baseball, which to the earlier question, you're certainly, if you're Manfred, certainly within your right to do. Does that move the needle, right? I'm not sure.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, and hit the notification tab so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. For the listeners of our show, the link is in the description. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we have a QR code for you on the screen. You'll get text from us, and you can text us questions, comments, and reactions to trades and signings. You'll also get top priority during Fan Mail Friday. We send out lineups during the season, roster moves, and breaking news so you don't have to check social media. And there's a new added perk, Stacey. We have a private Discord where you can commiserate with everybody during the games during the season. There's a 14-day trial. Coming up, more of our conversation with sports lawyer Dan Lust. The NFL season is heading towards the playoffs, and honestly, there is nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by the fans and cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be such a hassle. Between the queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it can be awfully frustrating. And that's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast and easy, and it's backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price possible. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price that you're going to pay. I pull up the Gametime in just a few taps. I see amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games for as low as $100, and the app is made super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seats before even buying them. Honestly, it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's less stressful than any other way that I've bought tickets before. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's one word, promo code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Yeah, I don't know how you don't, though, ban them for life. And I can move that into a question that I have for later on. I don't know how you don't. I mean, this has happened. Go back to the Black Sox scandal, right? All those guys banned for life. To this day, still banned from life. Not in the Hall of Fame. Now, Shoeless Joe's sneakers and everything are in the Hall of Fame, so I find that a little weird. But regardless,
you said Shoeless Joe's sneakers are in the Hall?
I guess that's a weird one that I just put together, right? Because his nickname is Shoeless Joe, but he did wear shoes on the field. Regardless, I always find it weird that his bat, his sneakers, his jersey, his pants, everything that has Shoeless Joe memorabilia is about 10 feet from the Canyon of Heroes in the Hall of Fame. I don't understand that at all. So he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he's in the Hall of Fame. Whatever. I just find it crazy how we're going to ban him from everything, right? And we're going to ban Pete Rose, and we're not going to, all these guys, we're going to ostracize them from the sport entirely. But then Clase, this is the first player-related, like, proven cheating scandal in since Shoeless Joe, really. Well, and now we're gonna.
I'll spare you with the word. Listen, there's a little defamation lesson. Allegedly, reportedly.
I can't be a lawyer. I can't be a lawyer.
You're right. I had high hopes for you, Brian, for like a split second. And
I made the right career choice in sports radio. Clearly.
I'll say this, which is very interesting, and to your point, and this is one that I think is going lost on people. We could talk about Pete Rose, right? We could talk about the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Those are, at least as alleged, right? Pete Rose is in betting on games that he managed, that he can really impact the result of the game. And from what I understand, he was betting on wins and losses. The Black Sox scandal revolved around wins and losses, specific to the World Series. This is, on the grand scheme of things, in terms of like what is being bet on, the fact that you throw a first pitch ball really doesn't impact the game. And you can be a reliever of the year and throw a first pitch ball, or throw a slider instead of a fastball on a 0-0 count. So if you're Clase and you're like, legally you're not allowed to do it, right? Like that's pretty clear. But from the morals police, you could be saying to yourself, like, wow, like those guys are banned from the Hall of Fame because they impacted the World Series. Like I threw a first pitch ball. Like these two things don't have anything to do with each other.
Yeah. See, but I would disagree there. I think you have to come down hard on these guys. Like you can't have any of these kind of scandals, because if we're going to allow guys to stay in the league from first pitch balls and all that kind of stuff. Now, he won't be in the league, obviously, but regardless, if we're going to allow that to slide, then where's the line drawn? All right, so if it's past the fifth inning betting on balls and strikes, then you're banned. You know what I mean? Like you have to I think you have to draw a firm line in the sand of absolutely no gambling whatsoever on the sport. And here's the funny part, Dan. They're allowed to gamble on other professional sports. So Clase can go place $10,000 worth of bets on the NFL that weekend, and no one's gonna bat an eye. It's just on baseball. And this moves me to this point too. He signs a 5-year, $20 million contract. And apparently these bets were getting cashed for $7,000, and Luis Ortiz's were like $5,000. You don't know the answer to this. Neither do I. Neither does anyone yet. But I'm going to ask it straightforward, and this might come across as stupid, but that's fine. Why? Like, why are we betting $7,000 in a game when he's got a $20 million contract? And I'm sure there's an ulterior motive somewhere from somebody. But is there any theory that you could possibly feed me to give me some kind of thing to hang on?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I going back to the technology. Yeah, certainly in hindsight, the fact that all of these things, we can see any type of irregular spike in activity. Like, why would you be doing this for $1 million? They're going to figure it out. Like, let's say it was a $10 million bet, they'll figure it out. But you have to put your head in 2023 before this tech. I mean, listen, I've been around the space. I was going to betting expos 2 years ago when I was learning about this technology, and these companies have been around for a number of years. Like, this really isn't new. But this is the first betting scandals that we're dealing with this past week with real players, not minor leaguers, not like two-way guys, be it Jonte Porter or whatnot in the NBA circles. But, like Brian, to your point, it's like, I don't know, you could fill in the blank. If it's a perfect crime that can't be discovered, like bet 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, like whatever it is, if it's a perfect crime and you can't be caught, but it's a false premise because it's not a perfect crime. So it looks really dumb in hindsight for him to be making tens of thousands of dollars. And I think on the back end, like $400,000 were won. And now this man could lose his earnings for his career, the way he makes money because of a couple $1,000, like cutting off your nose to spite your face. It doesn't make any sense. But again, you have, and this is why I feel strongly that the next wave of betting stories are going to relate to this window of time before November of 2025, be it with refs and other sports or umps or whatever it is. People are going through the data right now and they're trying to figure out these specific flags. And mind you, like there's been a UFC investigation that's been ongoing for the past 3 years, still ongoing with respect to an old fighter named James Krause. And they're trying to figure out linkage between that previous act from a couple years ago and the stuff that happened this past week. So we're at the tip of the iceberg, but I think you have to put yourself in the mindset of like, we didn't think there was surveillance cameras. We didn't think that there was a digital footprint. But again, that premise is not real in hindsight.
So we have a final question for you, and this actually goes well with the new technology. A story came out earlier in the week about Kim Kardashian, who's trying to become a lawyer, blaming ChatGPT and also her psychic for failing the California bar exam. Did you hear about this? And as someone who went to law school, passed a bar exam, did everything the correct way, how do you feel about that whole thing? And also, how do you feel about people trying to use ChatGPT to help them pass a bar exam?
Fortunately, ChatGPT did not exist when I was studying for the bar. But I'm familiar with Kim Kardashian. I know who she is. I at one point kept up with the Kardashians, no longer, safe to say. No, I mean, listen, it is what it is. It's the bar rate's not 100% pass rate for a reason. It's a very tough exam. I think Kim Kardashian was in this weird like California loophole that she didn't have to go to law school, but she could work under the tutelage of a California lawyer. But part of the thing about studying for the bar is like, how many years removed are you from taking exams, right? Midterms, pop quizzes, all this nonsense. So you could blame ChatGPT, you could blame this, but like the most obvious thing is that Kim Kardashian is a grown woman with kids. There's 100 priorities in life. She is not in the grind of writing law school outlines and studying for exams and midterms. And like, that's just not something she's conducive to doing. Like, put it this way, her body is not calloused like as one would if you are getting the exam mode as other law students are. So yeah, the bar takers, I'm sure like 90+% are people that have just graduated law school. So Kim can blame a lot of things, but yeah, ChatGPT and her psychic seem like very low on the totem pole of actual excuses.
Is the bar exam really that hard? Like I feel like there are a lot, like I drive around and I see a lot of law offices around.
Well, there's a reason why JFK Jr. took him 3 times to pass the bar in New York.
But he passed it at some point. Like, is it really that difficult? I'm not trying to like put your career down or anything like that. But
no,
like, there's no sports radio bar exam that we have to take to get into this career. They can let anyone do
Thank
this.
God, because I would be in big trouble.
Yeah. So like, is it that difficult, or is it one of those things? Like, have you seen really stupid students of yours pass, and you're like, wow, good for them?
Put it this way: to be good at the bar exam, like gets a lot of hype, and then when you're actually in it, it does live up to the hype. You have to understand like 25 different disciplines all at the same time and stuff that you've maybe never learned before and will never learn since. So be it like tax law, divorce law, criminal law, constitutional law. Like you have to have all of these things in your head ready to go at a moment's notice. And the actual questions they ask you, like, I don't know, if I spent the whole time doing constitutional law, like I could do fine, but you have to know all of these things and you have to be like peaking at the right time. It's kind of like running a marathon. You have to be good on that day. You have to know everything cold. And it's like, this concept, like you don't need to be an expert in any of those disciplines, but on the day of the exam, you have to know enough to be dangerous in like 25 different categories. And then you have to show up and then someone next to you could pass out from exhaustion and something that, could happen. So it's a grind. And on top of everything, it's like, what's it like the decathlon? That's kind of what it's like. You have to be pretty good at everything. And if you're not good at one portion, you're certainly at risk of failing. Then you got to do above average on the other pieces. So yeah, Brian, I would say the bar lives up to the hype. There's a pass rate for a reason, and like people don't pass. It's not because they're not smart. Just it's a lot of like mental stress all in one moment. It all comes down, and they only offer it twice a year. So you got to
I'd have no chance. If you gave me like a sports knowledge test on like all sports and I had to come in on my A game of like tennis and soccer, I'd kill that exam. Law, no chance. No chance. I'd have no chance at that.
I will say this. I took a mock bar exam in my senior year of high school law class, and I actually passed on the first try. And
so you're pretty much a lawyer. Like you're pretty much
and I won my case too, which was hilarious.
And you stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night, just like the trifecta. You got all of them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was 34 years ago. I don't remember what was on the test, but the fact that I passed it, I was like, yes, okay, great.
She's not officially a lawyer, but passed the law exam. He is a lawyer, and I am just a sports fan. Dan, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for giving us your time.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime.
That was an amazing conversation, and we're looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it with sports lawyer Dan Lust. Coming up next, we're going to discuss Jasson Dominguez getting ready to start in winter ball. What's up, guys? The NBA season is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine all of your live bets into a same game parlay for a bigger shot at a bigger payout. Thursday night football, the Jets take on the Patriots. I'm not going to sit here and as an honest sports fan and give you the Jets, but can the Patriots get back on their winning ways against the Jets? We saw it for 20 years. Why wouldn't it happen again? It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team can make that late game push. Now, right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Stacey, Jasson Dominguez is starting in winter ball, and it kind of circles around the whole conversation we've had lately with the Stephen Kwan discussions. What are they going to do in the outfield? Where is Dominguez going to be impacted? And if you're Jasson Dominguez, all you can really worry about is yourself and improving your game. Make the decision impossible for the New York Yankees going forward. He's getting ready to start winter ball soon, and you got some information on that for us.
Yeah, so as we all know, the 2025 season was uneven for Dominguez. He batted .257, .331, .388, which works out to 98 for .381. So .381.
Wow.
He had 10 home runs. He drove in 47 runs. He stole 23 bases, and he played in only 123 games because as the season went on, his reps fell off in the second half, and then you barely saw him in September. From like late August through September, you barely saw Jasson Dominguez play.
You have to assume the average would stay relatively where it was, but if you count him playing a whole season, he likely finishes somewhere in the 15 home run, 60 RBI range, which is a pretty good spot for a rookie to be in, right? Especially one who was switch hitting and really struggling from one side of that plate. I don't hate what he gave them in his rookie year. And I know a lot of people, because of the nickname and because of the expectations, kind of really thought that he'd be a bigger deal coming in and a much better player than he actually was. I don't view him as a failed experiment so far, though, at all.
I don't either. He's still really, really young, but here's the exact number. He had only 72 at-bats from August 1st on in the regular season.
Yeah,
so that didn't really give him a chance to build upon what he had already done during the season.
No, I mean, and I mean, for confidence purposes, it doesn't help either. I would say the Yankees handled it the right way. Like, you can't keep playing a guy that you don't necessarily believe in when you're trying to win a World Series. It's really hard to develop players while you're in a window of trying to win at the moment. So they made the right call if they don't think that he's ready to play and ready to impact the team necessarily right now. I think the time that he played was really valuable, and they made the right call. But yeah, it did impact his development, not getting those at-bats in the last part of the year.
Right. So this is a quote from Aaron Boone. He said, "Left field continues to be a work in progress. That being said, I think he's made tremendous strides out there as well. I think we can all envision him becoming a very good defender out there just with his athleticism, his speed, his arm strength, and the work he's put into it." So they're viewing him as left field. I don't think they're going to try and put him in center field if they don't get a center fielder.
Yeah. It seems like he's just a corner outfielder at this point.
Yeah.
Like he's not, and the track record was center field. I still think he could play center. Like, they don't believe in his tracking, but his speed is there. And
Right.
that's why I think he could handle center field, because I think the corners sometimes are harder than center field because you have to learn different ballparks and different quirks. Most center fields are pretty much the same.
Right.
So I do think
maybe a little bigger or a little further back, but you have the Crawford boxes in Houston. You have the Green Monster in Fenway. You just, everything is different because every field is different. So yeah, I would see why. And that goes for right field as well in some of these places.
Agreed. Yeah. So I actually think center field to a point could be necessarily easier for him in a sense. And I think with his speed too, it kind of lends to him being a better fielder in center field. But hey, they're going to make the decision that they're going to want to make. I'm not going to fight with that. I just think it concerns them a lot. And again, this all comes kind of down on what Trent Grisham decides to do.
Now, I found this interesting in the article that I looked through about this. This is what it said. The winter stint will provide Dominguez with an opportunity to fine-tune his hitting from the right side of the plate. Dominguez batted .274 with a .768 OPS against righties and just .204 with a .569 OPS against lefties. Only one of his homers came off a lefty. Now, I find this interesting just because we had spoken about this with JJ last week. We'd spoken about it a few times. I am of the mind of making him exclusively a lefty bat and trying to do away with the switch hitting, but it seems like maybe the Yankees are like, no, go work on everything in winter ball, which makes sense, I guess.
There's more value in being a switch hitter.
Right.
Like traditionally, there's just more value in having a switch hitter. It allows him to play every single day. So I get where they're coming from, but he's a much better hitter from one part of the. It's not even close from the numbers you just read.
Yeah,
exactly. So at a certain point, and yeah, if he's been a switch hitter his whole life, like that's the argument I keep hearing from everybody is Jasson Dominguez has been a switch hitter his whole life. So you can't like switch it up now. And I get where they're coming from, but he's a baby. He's like 21 years old.
He's still really
young,
it's
like his whole life is since 2003. You know what I mean? Like, so you can't, it's kind of a difficult argument to sit here and say, this is not a 35-year-old player that's been in the major leagues for the last 15 years, but you're now saying, oh, hey, now we're going to stick you to just the left side or just the right side. It's not working at the major league level. His numbers aren't where they can be. Who knows? What if he was only batting for the left side for his entire minor league career? Let's just say that, right? And would he have been up 2 years earlier? Would his numbers have been that much better? But, who knows? You have no idea. I think there's more value in getting him to learn how to hit guys from the same side as him, as opposed to the other way. I don't see where the value in him being a switch hitter at this point is anymore.
Yeah, and this is another quote from Boone, basically saying, I think a lot of that, meaning not being able to hit from one side, has to do with his lack of experience. Being a very young man, he hasn't played a ton of minor league seasons, just with different injuries and stuff. Where has that affected him the most? The right side of the plate, where you get less at bats.
It's true. I mean, you get less reps from the right side of the plate because there's less left-handed pitching. So I get that a lot. Again, he can be a very effective player, and there's a lot of elements to his game that could really, really work at the major league level. Their off season, they're in such a tough spot as a franchise right now because they're in such a win now mode. And you have guys like Garrett Cole and Max Fried and Carlos Rodon and Aaron Judge that are all north of 30 years old in their primes. And the team right now is trying to win a World Series. So it's hard to take the growing pains of Jasson Dominguez while you're also trying to win a World Series and play him full time. It's a very tough predicament they're in. But what if Jasson Dominguez pops off next year? There's a lot of guys who have rookie years that, by the way, his rookie year wasn't terrible. He had 257 with a 330. That's his year last year was way better than Anthony Volpe's year.
Right.
And Anthony Volpe's starting full time. And they're willing to go with the growing pains of Anthony Volpe. I'm just sitting here saying, what if he pops off in his sophomore year and the rookie year was just hey, he was fine, but he was figuring things out and everything like that. What if he goes next year he goes from 257 to 271.
Right.
And he hits 21 homers with 72 RBIs. Do you replace Trent Grisham? So you have to kind of look at it that way. It feels like they're in between giving up on him and not having a place for him to play, but also want to develop him and not give up on the player.
Yeah,
you have to define it.
This is not the best that Jasson Dominguez can be.
No,
this was a perfectly fine rookie season. And because of all the different players they had to play, because they had to play Bellinger, they had to play Grisham, they sometimes had to play Stanton, they had to play Judge, because when Stanton came back, you couldn't just have him in the outfield the whole time. You had to have Judge DHing, but you could have him in the outfield, so you had to rearrange things. I think that having that season under his belt is going to do the same thing that happened for Ben Rice. Now, Ben Rice's first season, which wasn't a full season, but he had some reps. Was it great? No, but it wasn't. You saw glimpses of what he could be, and you see glimpses of what Jasson Dominguez can be if he gets a full shot. And I think if he gets a full shot, he will be. Will he be a superstar? Who knows? But I think he'll be a perfectly good player, and I think the Yankees need to give him a chance.
I was out on Ben Rice after year one. You guys all remember that. I was out on him, and he came back and had a great year. 1 year means a lot for these guys. And again, like Stacey just said, the rookie year wasn't a bad rookie year. And we treat it like because he got benched at the end of the year that he's just a failed experiment and give up on the Martian. I can't.
It was really just because of the playing time for the veterans that they had to fit in. It wasn't. Yeah. I don't think it was. It wasn't because of the way he played.
I agree. I agree.
All right, well, thank you guys for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.